The only people who don't want to disclose the truth are people with something to hide.
The march on Selma, Alabama, or from Selma to Montgomery, I think it was 1965, wasn't it?
Correct, Carl. It started on March 25th. It took 5 days, 56 miles, and that was 1965.
Right, and he was supposed to have been born in 1961, so he's certainly, it sounds to me like he told a big fat whopper.
Oh, you mean that birth certificate that's on the White House website that the Obots say is the correct one?
I suppose so. Oh goodness, there's just so much to this story. My head is full of details of information from the investigation, and I have to be so careful what I say and what I don't say. So much of it I'm still not allowed to reveal. But I was on the phone with Mike Zullo today. He's still uncovering astounding information, and this thing marches forward. It's amazing when it is finally brought forward. Hopefully, in a congressional investigation, I think the world is going to be stunned at what they see.
You know, Carl, I played that audio. It's very clear. I'm going to play it again. It's actually a YouTube video. You could see Obama. I want everybody to be clear. We just heard Barack Obama state that because of the march on Selma, Alabama, March 25th, 1965, where he claims his parents met on a bridge, is the result of him being here today, of his birth, March 25th, 1965. You know, I guess this is just going to be another, publisher's error, editor's error, a misspeech. Everything is a mistake, an error about Obama. We're not buying it. I'm sorry. It's over. If you haven't heard this audio, I will have the link on my website tonight. You can hear it again. So
right.
You were speaking about Mike Zullo, and you spoke to him about further information. Carl, I happen to know about an encounter that you had last week because I happened to had spoken to Mike the same day about an OBOT, apparently a desperate OBOT having a conversation with Mike Zullo. Would you elaborate, please?
Yeah, thank you, Michael. I will elaborate on that. I'm not going to use his name, the OBOT's name. There's no reason why I couldn't. I just don't want to give him any free publicity. I don't think he's worthy of it. He's pretty irrelevant in so many ways, but he desperately wants to be relevant, and it's quite comical watching him dance around, in my humble opinion. But I was on the phone with Mike Zullo, and Mike and I talk almost every day, sometimes several times a day. And sometime back, Michael, I guess it was a week or so ago, I don't remember, but not too long ago, I was on the phone with Mike Zullo, and in the middle of the conversation, his phone was beeping in. Somebody was trying to call him, and he looked at it, and he came on the phone. He said, "Carl," he said, "this is so-and-so," and he gave the name. He said, that OBOT, so-and-so. I said, "Yeah." And he said, "He's calling me." He said, "I don't know what this is about." He said, "Stay on the phone. I want you to witness this conversation." I said, "Okay." I said, "Do you want me to say anything? Do you want me to, He said, nope, just be my witness." I said, "Okay, I will." So the long and short of it, Michael, and you can ask me questions, but I'll just get cut to the chase. The long and short of it was OBOT comes on the phone, and he has Mike Zullo's phone number because he had asked a couple of years ago, I think, for Zullo to come on a radio show and debate him. And Mike Zullo wouldn't do it because, again, the guy's just irrelevant and a little fish in a great big pond. And Mike wouldn't do it. But that's how the guy had Zullo's phone number. So the guy comes on the phone, and just cutting to the chase, he launches into Mike Zullo with all these ad hominem attacks of you're ignorant, you're a liar, you're not a real investigator. I mean, just launched into him. And then starts demanding answers from Mike Zullo. He said, I want to know, is Carl Gallups an official spokesperson for you? Is Carl Gallups a spokesperson? Now, the reason he was asking that question, Michael, is because just a few days earlier, Mike Zullo and I had done an interview, and in fact, I think I posted it on P.P. Simmons Radio. Perhaps it was on Freedom Friday. I don't remember. I interview so many people, but it had to do with the fact that the Zullo Cold Case Posse Arpaio investigation has turned a corner now. Now a whole new little branch of investigation is opened up, and several OBOTs have become deep persons of interest. And amazingly, ironically, it's all over this Xerox machine debacle that they kept insisting was their golden bullet. But as the investigation unfolded on that allegation, some new information came to light and some correlations and connections were made once they began to investigate at a deep level, and that's all I can say as to how they're doing it. But at a very deep level, they were astounded at some of the connections that they have made with some of these OBOTs to, and I'm just going to be very careful here, to some very important people and institutions across this land. So when that was discovered, that opened up the investigation even deeper. And so Mike Zullo and I were generally speaking about that, as I said, on P.P. Simmons Radio or Freedom Friday, I don't remember. And apparently that, and plus I've done some interviews across the nation in various talk radio markets about it. So apparently that OBOT heard one of those interviews and called up Mike Zullo and said, is Carl Gallups an official spokesperson for you? And then he literally said to Mike Zullo, I heard him ask, I want to know, am I a suspect? Am I a person of interest? And, of course, Mike Zullo's answer to the guy was, look, I don't even know if I'm really talking to you. I don't know who this is. I'm not going to give you any information. I'm not answering any questions. I'm not doing an interview with you over the phone. And eventually Mike had to hang up on him because the guy just got out irate and was using vulgarity. And it was quite amazing. It was a little surreal, Michael. I don't mind telling you.
Well, Carl, thank you for the update there. I appreciate the update there, Carl. I was aware of most what you just said, and it's just I don't know why he would be calling Zulu. Are we getting close? Are we getting hot? I can tell you this, Carl. The sheriff's kit, every day I mail a kit out, 2 kits, 3 kits. Every day the kits are downloaded. I wanted to say this at the beginning of the show. Carl, it's not over because Congress is back in Washington because we have a crisis right now with a president that doesn't know what day it is to do over there in Syria. It's not over. Actually, Carl, it's going strong. I think people who are thinking or thought about it and missed the opportunity to meet with their congressman, the kids, Carl, every day. I just got one ready. I mailed out 3 yesterday. I have 2 more to go out. I have a couple more to help people download. They're going out every single day, and it's not over, Carl. And probably the OBOTs are feeling the pressure, I guess, as we get closer and closer to this, and they're probably afraid we're going to expose them.
Yeah, well, Michael, no, I think you've hit the nail on the head. First of all, thank you for the amazing work you're doing through your blog radio program, your website, and the sheriff kits, and your interaction and engagement, your personal engagement in this is amazing. God bless you for that. But yes, it's surreal to me. Why would this guy call Mike Zullo out of the clear blue like that? I mean, I can only think of a few logical reasons. I mean, I could be wrong. These are just my opinions. Number one, the guy might have a screw loose or 2. And again, this is just my opinion. I'm not trying to be derogatory. I don't know the man. But, I mean, what would possess an innocent person to call the lead investigator in a case concerning criminal activities in the White House and demand to know if you are a suspect? I mean, that's just surreal, unless you've got a screw loose. Or, Michael, unless you're somehow connected to this thing. Perhaps he knows who does it, who fabricated the birth certificate, and he's connected to the person. Or perhaps he's the person that fabricated the birth certificate. I mean, there are only 2 or 3 or 4 logical scenarios as to why you would just call up the lead investigator of a criminal case of this nature, cuss the man out, call him a liar and a fraud, and then demand to know if you're a suspect. It just blows my mind. But I suspect, Michael, that you're right. We have a southern phrase down here, a little southern slang down here along the Gulf Coast. When you throw a rock amongst a bunch of dogs, the one that you hit is the one that squeals. And so I think that's probably what has happened.
I heard that last week when you said that, Carl. Yeah, that's true. Carl, I want to take 2 quick phone calls here, Carl. My call screener, Mona. Thank you, Mona, for being in the call screening room tonight. I appreciate it. Mona sent me a correction. It was 2007 that Obama made that speech. Carl, I have one call. I'm going to put him on very quickly. He's a loyal listener. He works with me. His name is Ed. He's from Norfolk, Virginia, and he wants to know. I'm going to put him on the air in a second. He's going to ask you a question about Congressman Stockman. Okay, yes. Ed, you're on the air with Carl Gallups.
Oh, hello, Carl.
Hello, Ed. God bless you. Thank you for being on today.
Yeah, I don't know what Mike, he said the question was about Congressman Stockman. Not really. The question is, Carl, a lot of us don't feel like that Zulu and Team Arpaio, I mean, that they're like moving with this thing, but they're not stepping up with this thing and taking action because, you know, we remember way back, what was it, February or March when you and Mike Zuma went to CPAC?
Yeah. Yes, it was. March or April, I think.
Yeah. Well, you know, back about that time, you know, we heard from you and some from Zulu too that, you know, so many VIPs were coming on board, and these were wealthy VIPs, and they could move this thing into a state or federal court, and they had the power to get this into the media and make this thing move. And it's been like around 6 months or so, and we've seen absolutely nothing, Carl. Absolutely zero.
Yeah, well, listen,
thanks for the question, Ed.
Yeah, thank you, Ed. May I address that, Michael?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Ed, first of all, thank you so much for asking that question. And because it is a matter of, first of all, I want to get all the facts straight here and then give your listeners, Michael, the perspective. Please remember, folks, that the initial investigation, when it was completed and brought by Sheriff Arpaio and Mike Zullo to the public, and a national press conference was called by Sheriff Arpaio because he had done this massive investigation on the birth certificate, and Sheriff Arpaio at that press conference announced to the world 2 years ago, over 2 years ago now, I think, that he had set out to vindicate Obama, to prove that Obama's birth certificate was indeed valid. And after this investigation, it turns out that Arpaio couldn't say that. And so he brought forth the evidence that the birth certificate was an absolute fraud. Well, remember what happened. The news media shut it down and refused to report it because Arpaio didn't give them what they thought they were going to get. They thought they were going to get this Arizona sheriff that was going to come on board and vindicate Obama, and the news media was going to stick their finger in the eye of every so-called birther across the land. Now, remember, that happened years ago. Well, remember, Arpaio was just dumbstruck. He was overwhelmed. I mean, here's a 50-year lawman, 30-something years at the federal level, doing his job. He uncovers one of the biggest frauds in American history, perhaps human history, and nobody wants to talk about it. Nobody wants to report it. Nobody wants to deal with it. So immediately Arpaio starts, trying to get a hold of congressmen and federal courts and all of his connections to deal with this, and nobody will touch it. So it went on hold for about a year and a half. I mean, they kept investigating, they kept digging, they kept finding more and more stuff. They were overwhelmed how deep and dark and dirty this thing went, but nobody would touch it. And then remember, Ed, you said way back in March. Well, it's just been a handful of months ago when, remember, prior to that, nothing was happening, nothing was moving, nobody would talk to anybody about it. But just a handful of months ago, Mike Zullo and I decided we'd make one last-ditch effort and try to bring some people on board, Ed. And so we did, and I believe God opened some doors and led us into the offices of people who finally listened to us. Congressman Steve Stockman was one of them who sat down with us for hours. There were others. And so the bottom line is, Ed, here's where we are now. The investigation's still going forward. We have persons of interest now. Mike Zullo is on top of this every day. They've dealt with the whole Xerox machine debacle, and boy, we've got some surprising information there when that comes forward. In the meantime, of course, Congress has been in and out, dealing with Benghazi and dealing with Syria, and then, of course, they were on recess, and we had to wait for that.
The only people who don't want to disclose the truth are people with something to hide.